the water leaked from upstairs. There are screws into the ground.
Oh no.
How hard could it be to sell it? Welcome to Tailored Wealth. I'm your host, Taylor Mavrakos. In my 10 years as a financial advisor, I've noticed that when it comes to finances, women are often considered an afterthought. My intention with this show is to create a space tailored to women as we navigate financial choices throughout our lives. And today, I'm here with the one and only Keon Buzar. Welcome, Keon.
Hey, how's it going, Taylor?
I would say introduce yourself, but you're going to be on the podcast all the time.
Yep, definitely.
Yay!
So, it's exciting to be back.
It's exciting to be back. So Keon is like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, making everything happen. But then I drag him out here sometimes to talk to him.
Yep.
Oh, and it's green.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Hey, wow, hey.
That worked out.
Basically wicked.
Basically wicked.
Yeah.
So on theme. Okay, so I'm excited for us to talk today
Okay.
because I haven't talked to you about all my real estate stories yet because I wanted to talk about them all on the podcast because you have the best reactions in the entire world. So
Okay.
I'm excited to tell you everything.
I'm excited.
Yay!
We just released those mortgage episodes. So I'm interested in how all of this stuff kind of ties together.
Not only that, but Keon is also a property manager among his various jobs.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I deal a lot with more or less like keeping everything afloat. So it's interesting how much everything that we've been talking about on the podcast has come into frame for me where I'm like, oh my God, some of this stuff is very relevant to me. So it's super interesting when rewatching and editing the episodes. I'm like, oh, hey, okay. Keep that in mind.
The amount of times you've had to hear my voice, I am so sorry.
It's, you know what? if it were a problem, I probably would have quit. So, I mean, it's pretty good.
There was one day when I first walked in when I heard my own voice and I looked at Keon and I said, Keon, I need you to be honest with me. Do I sound like a New Yorker with a cold? And you were so nice. You're like, no, you don't sound like that. And as I've listened to it more, I don't think that as much.
Yeah,
but I don't think anyone
not.
likes the sound of their own voice.
I mean, mine's amazing. So
Yours and Tony, that mortgage episode,
Right?
both of you
Very
guys.
good.
If you guys started a radio show, you could kill it.
The Bald Beard Guys podcast.
You have so much in common.
Exactly.
The entire head, the voice, the hair, all of
Perfect.
the beard, all of it. Yeah.
I'll see if I can put a side by side of me sitting here and him sitting here.
I love it. Okay, so I want to talk about, like you said, our guests we've had were incredible. So informative. I feel like, real estate is such a big topic. And typically with the clients that I work with, their biggest assets are always their house and then their investment account, right? Which is why, fun fact, I have my real estate license, but I don't use it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I don't use it though, but just because I want to be informed for clients because it's typically their other largest asset that they have.
Definitely.
But I am currently in the process of much real estate that I wanted to talk to you about
yeah,
today.
I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. And we kind of touch on everything that Michaela and Tony were talking about in their episodes. So I'll kind of cruise through. It's me and my best friend. We're both trying to buy homes at the same time.
Oh, really? Oh, you
Yeah.
got plenty to talk about then.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because like one's a condo, one's a townhouse, and then a house.
Oh my goodness, I have so much to. I was rewatching. I think it was the Tony episode, and I was just like, so what about a condo versus a townhouse? He's like, well, it has to have dirt, and I'm just like, right? Oh my God, I hate HOAs, and I hate the idea of owning a property without owning the land. And I'm just like, this is. So I'm very interested in how these things are going.
So you're 1,000% right, and I'm learning that like the very hard way.
Okay.
So once upon a time, I bought a condo, and then I sold it, and I did really well with it. It sold really fast. I sold it in March of 2020.
So of course, every time you buy a condo, it'll be great and it'll sell really fast, and you'll have a great time. Yeah, that's how it works.
100%. Yeah, not to brag, but I broke like the record in my condo complex.
What record?
I don't know, the most one I ever sold for. I was like, good for me.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, dang.
Condo number 2, not so much. But I literally sold in March of 2020, and I'll never forget, my dad texted me. He's like, you have dodged a bullet. Like, real estate's going to tank because of COVID. Good for you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no. Now that condo is worth like $100,000 more than it was in 2020. Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't know. Nobody knew at the time, right?
Sure.
And then my friend had a condo in the same complex. I'm like, this is a seller's market. No big deal. I listed it for her. It sold for like so much more above ask within one day. Like I was like, why doesn't everybody do this? Real estate, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, not a problem.
Yeah, no problems whatsoever. Yeah,
No
indeed.
problems. So then I rented for a couple years, and then I believe Michaela and Tony touched on this, I needed to buy another place for the portability, so to port over your property taxes.
Yes, yeah, for a homestead?
for homestead.
Yep,
There you go. Yep.
100%.
So again, to kind of refresh from those episodes, make sure where you live, look at what your homestead laws are, because if you are transferring from one home to another, make sure you get that homestead because it can really help reduce your property taxes. So in Florida, the way that it works is that you have to buy another house within 3 Januaries.
3 January.
So it's like 2 years, but really like 3 January 1st.
The way that she said it in the episode was 18 months. So is that on track with that, or?
It's a little bit different. I think that was
Okay.
more divorce specific,
Oh, okay.
I think, but we can check that.
Sure.
I just know for me, it was 3 January, so I closed on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
I was like,
that was also something you mentioned during one of the episodes.
yes. Okay. So I went to the closing agent and then I went out for New Year's Eve, and that was my New Year's 3 years ago. So I was like, yay. And I, again, we talked about this in the episode. I'm a single woman. I know nothing about roofs or stucco or any of that. So I was like, I'm going to get a condo. Plus, the market at the time was really high. And usually condos are cheaper than houses because, like we talked about, they have that HOA baked in.
Yeah.
But I'm like, single gal, need somebody to help me with stuff anyway. So the HOA sounds fine. And my payment will be lower monthly for the actual property. So I buy this condo. And I'm like, how hard could it be to sell it? Not hard in 2020. It can't be hard now. Wrong. So I buy a house, right? And I do like the big girl step. I buy the house. Like Michaela was talking about, it's like a nice block home. It's right by downtown Safety Harbor where we are now. I'm going to be able to walk to the studio, which I'm so excited about. And something I really wanted to mention, because I have clients ask this a lot. Do I spend more for the finished house, or do I buy a reno house, one that I need to do a ton of work to
I've
to
heard
build
about that.
equity in it, right? And so my answer, like it always is it depends, right? So obviously, first question is, do you have the funds for both? That's the first thing. But the second thing is to be mindful, like Tony was talking about, if you buy a house that's already redone, you're doing what I call finance your fancy. So you finance the fancy of your house. Because if you think about it, if you buy a house and you have to redo a kitchen or you have to redo the floors, you got to come up with cash. But if you buy it and it's already fixed up, you get to finance your fancy.
Okay.
And the other part of that is you don't have to live in dust. You don't have to live in construction. You don't have to deal with permits and construction workers and all the different things that come with that, right? People, you take the day off work. Somebody says they're going to show up. They don't show up, and you still took the day off work. So I tell people, if you can, finance your fancy if home renovation's not your thing.
The main thing for me is how often I hear people say the house has got good bones. I'm like, I don't know what that means or how to distinguish that when I buy a house. So maybe a house that's already renoed that I feel confident about. I've seen so many of these YouTube shorts, TikToks and stuff of like, this is a new build house. And then they show you, like an inspector shows you like how they skimped out on so many things. And I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I have a really good inspector if I'm trying to get a new house.
Okay, so that's why, and I talk the talk. Michaela's my realtor. She's fantastic. It's real.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Definitely.
So a big part of why I wanted to hire a realtor is in Florida, we have sinkholes everywhere. We're basically living on Swiss cheese here in Florida. It's like one big piece of like limestone. So we got to be very careful. And so I wanted to know for sinkholes what that looks like. And she was telling me if it was a sinkhole house, you would know because you wouldn't be able to fully close the windows or the doors. Like everything is off about the house.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that wild? Because I was asking, sometimes on a house you have like hairline cracks on like, they're called like step cracks on the side of the house. That's normal because your house like settles, which also low key freaks me out, but that's a whole other thing.
Settles into the sinkhole. Yeah,
exactly. Settle. You know what I literally, okay, so my friend actually was buying a house, has the home inspector. Get this. They pull back the rug on this house. There are screws into the ground. Keon.
What?
And the window won't shut. They're like, oh, the bones are bad. Okay? The bones suck in this house. Because they're like, oh yeah, one of the corners of this house, not super sturdy. But if you'd like, we can get a geospatial test done and bring in like a commercial drill and drill into this house. And I'm not done. The house, for all of you that love trees, I'm a big tree girl. I love a beautiful tree. Here in Safety Harbor, I mean, they love trees more than people here. Is that true? They love trees. Yeah. Big tree.
They'll go
big
bananas
tree
for
town.
Trees. Yeah,
they do. My friend's like, I love these trees. They're like, by the way, if a tree root is the issue underneath your house, if you remove the tree root might grow back because it's a tree.
100%. Yeah.
So you never fix the problem. So my friend's like, what do you think I should do? And I just heard this stuff about the sinkholes. And I'm like, I'm not saying there's a sinkhole. But what I have learned, Keon, when you say, I don't know what the bones are good means, I am a big fan of the ground. I love a level ground. And I know that sounds really rudimentary and stupid, but I've seen some scary stuff lately.
Sure.
And if the foundation is not like flat and we feel confident that it's not going to fall into our, very dicey limestone, I'm not buying it. So make sure you pay for a home inspection. And if you say, how much is a home inspection? It should be around $500. So when you put in an offer on a property and it gets accepted, usually you have a couple days to deposit escrow money. So that money you can get back typically. Make sure you read your contract and you have a good realtor if it's within that inspection period. And your inspection period is usually like a week or two. And within that, you get a home inspector. And really important, you don't get your money for the home inspection back if you don't pay for the house. So like my friend who found the screws in the ground, they're like, bummer, this house, bones are bad, but also you still had to pay $500 because the home inspector's got to get paid.
Of course, yeah.
So you get your home inspection report. And I love the way Michaela put it. She was saying that the reason you get a home inspection for 3 reasons. So you get a home inspection so that way you know where all the buttons are for the house. You know where the electrical panel is, where the water shutoff is. You know if there are any deal breakers. And then you know a budget, which I loved this. You know a budget to be able to account for your expenses moving forward. So stuff where the homeowner is not necessarily going to fix it. You're being a little picky if you ask for it, but you've got a list. Or more importantly, you can send the seller, you can say, hey, here's 10 things I want fixed. And they can say, nice try. I'm going to fix 3 of them. And you still want to be able to know where those other 7 things are. So you get to keep that inspection report. And in my case, I hand it to my handyman and beg him to help me. Or you can do it yourself. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. But that's an example. When you say the bones, what do the bones mean? It means there's no screws in your floors.
Yeah, exactly. You're not supplanting the bones with screws.
Yeah, and they're like, oh my God, that's so weird that we put a rug there. That's so weird.
Oh, really? Oh, it's so random. Yeah.
What a random rug placement.
Totally.
I'm like, oh my gosh. So
The
get a
feng
good
shui,
home.
you see.
Exactly. Yeah. So get a good home inspector.
Definitely.
So my friend, that was her second house she was looking at. First place she looks at, she's like me, single gal, doing her best, trying to buy an asset, right?
Sure.
And so she looks at a townhome. So townhomes, villas, difference. Villa, 1 story, townhome, 2 stories.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Villa, typically an older crowd because they can't handle stairs. Townhouse, typically a little bit more nimble, a little stronger knees. You get to have a townhouse.
Very pertinent for us in Florida.
In Florida, yeah, exactly.
Older people, yeah.
Depending on what state you live in, you might not have a lot of villas because you don't have as many old people.
Sure.
The other important thing, make sure when you're looking, if it feels really cheap, it's probably because it's in a 55 and up community and those properties are cheaper.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so my friend's like, I'm looking at a townhouse. So she puts in the contract and she gets the HOA docs. Oh, and she has a puppy, a golden retriever puppy.
Oh.
Yeah. On every page of the HOA docs, it has in bold that they have a pet height requirement.
Okay, please go on.
So they want you to measure your dog and see how high off the ground your dog is.
And it's like by a door frame, so you do it every so often.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think what they're implying is you have to have a fully grown short dog.
I guess so, yeah.
So
you don't have Marmaduke in your house. Yeah.
I know. So I'm just like living my life. I was closing on my house and I get a text. She's like, my dog is 18 inches tall and it can only be 16 inches tall. I'm like, is this a trick question? Like, what does that mean? So then they're literally Googling where you measure up to. Is it the back or the shoulder blades?
You know it's a bad sign when you're looking up all the caveats on something.
And this is where, Keon, when you say you hate HOAs, like this is why Keon hates HOAs.
Yeah, seriously.
If I were to sum it up. Because they can put whatever they want in there. I've seen weight requirements for dogs. I've never seen a height requirement for a dog.
Me either, which is surprising. Because I can't imagine like a greyhound, which is the super skinniest dog ever, would cause as much of a problem as like, a giant, I don't even know the type of dog the Marmaduke is. Especially with HOAs, the most frustrating part is that this is where you live, right? Yeah. And so you want it to be comfortable. You want to be able to, enjoy it. And having someone knock on your door and say, hey, your hedges are a little bit too short, that we're going to charge you or whatever, or too long or whatever, or yeah, it's patchy. And then so you need to fix it by this date or else we're going to charge you. It depending on the HOA. I've known some people that live in HOAs where it's not that much of a fee and they're very nice. But when you have to deal with that, it's not an issue that you can just brush off. Like there are ways that they can foreclose on your house or put a lien on your house and do all of those things. And maybe your mortgage, you've been completely fine with that. And you're like, well, this is unfair. It is unfair. And they're going to still mess with you. And it's awful.
When you say like, or what, your HOA has like a big or what, like they can make your life miserable and take your house. Like you 100%. Need to be really careful with that.
And it's one of those relationships you need to keep positive or need to keep well. And so you're kind of playing to that crowd. And if anything goes wrong, well, good luck.
Well, and that was her whole thing. She's like, I can move in. She's like, if, depending on a couple different things, she's like, I could move in and get an exception, but then I'm probably like gonna have a hostile welcome from some of my neighbors. And I was like, yeah, and you have a dog and you're outside all the time and you don't want some like weirdo with a yardstick like coming up to you and measuring your dog.
Seriously.
That's
and they
crazy.
would do that. I mean, I don't know about the specific HOA, but that is something that can happen, you know?
Yeah, like I can understand like if it says small breeds only and you have like a Great Dane.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Not
Exactly
great.
that. Yeah.
But like if your dog is 2 inches over the 16-inch height requirement, I just want to know what happened to make that.
Well, it's funny when you said that they were saying that like, oh well, where do we measure? I thought she was like, well, how do I reduce my dog's height? Do I only measure them when they're like laying down, or like how do we cheat this out?
A technicality.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
That's why you and I are not
caveats.
HOA people, because we'd be like, well, when do I measure the dog?
Exactly. Yeah, and then have every single asterisk on the planet. But yeah, for a dog like that, I can only imagine that certain heights of dogs, like, for some reason, them getting up on a counter or being able to like access certain parts of the building that you shouldn't, which is silly. Like with all these rules, also, of course, they add more and more and more, and you're just like, what happened? What was the straw that broke the camel's back on this issue?
Right. Well, because the only thing that makes sense to me is if a dog jumped on somebody.
Sure, exactly, something like that.
But then I'm like, you also have to ban like small dogs with a good vertical, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, because they could jump. You don't know.
Yeah.
No, some
I've
of
seen
the
dog
little
shows.
dogs.
I know. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Seen the puppy bowl. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like one of those things where you want to be really careful if there is an HOA that you fully read through the document. So that's also what that inspection period is for. If you don't read it before you put in the offer, which you should read it before you put in the offer, is really just making sure you can live with all those rules.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll have like an orientation and stuff like that. So definitely, if you are in one of those situations, read up on the rules before the orientation. So you don't just sit through it like a seminar and you're just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go back to my house. It's like, well, what do I need to know? How do these things affect me? Because there have been so many HOAs that I've seen that are they seem fine, all the properties seem fine, and then you actually talk to some of the people that live there and like, our HOA is terrible and the person never responds to us and blah blah blah. And whatever the company that is part of the HOA or whatever that is, they might just be under supporting. Like the person that is supposed to help just has way too many calls, and it's like a whole thing all the way down where if you don't know how to maneuver the HOA, it can really, oh my God, just become such a problem.
Yeah, and we're knocking on them, but one of the pros of an HOA is like, I don't want to have my own pool.
Sure, exactly.
So you can, a lot of times you can have amenities that you might not have if you had your own house. Or honestly, they cost, like I've had friends that live in a condo and then they want to get a house with a pool. And I'm like, you're going to have to spend a lot of money upkeeping the pool.
Definitely. Yeah, depending on the HOA, it's going to cost more than whatever your HOA dues were.
Right. So just being really careful, like how many amenities do you want? So my condo is on the water here in Florida. I don't have a water view, but it's like water adjacent. Unless you want to buy it, then it's just absolutely pristine.
Then it's the best thing you've ever seen, and you're getting a bargain. You're getting the best
the deal
ever.
of a lifetime.
Seriously, yeah.
So God, I hope it's sold by the time this comes out.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So in that case, right, like my flood insurance is included and they deal with my roof and they deal with my stuff. So there are, and there's a sauna. How nice is that?
Hey,
I'm going to
that's
miss
pretty
that.
cool. Yeah, sure.
Not enough to, but for whoever wants to buy it, there's a sauna.
Yeah, hey, wow, what a deal. You
What a
should really
deal.
get in on this right now.
Deal of a lifetime. Let's publish this tomorrow.
Exactly. This is not investment advice. We're joking. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, so anyway, so that's something to where we talked about HOAs. let's talk about the difference between that and what I call the Goldilocks, the happy medium, deed restrictions, deed restricted community.
I don't know about this.
Deed restricted is great because it's not an HOA, but your neighbor can't park 4 boats outside.
Oh, thank God.
Because there are like rules, and sometimes it's like, I don't know, $10 a month or something like that. But there's rules without the whole HOA
So
monthly.
They can't foreclose on your house, but there are like ordinances that maybe the cops or something will show up and be like, hey, what the heck are you doing? Okay.
Ooh, important. We should clarify what liens are.
Yes,
you said lien, and I think we should talk about it.
To the best of my understanding, and I'm not the foremost knowledge expert on liens, is that if somebody does some work on your property, or if there is some reason by which somebody has a stake in your property, so that can be that a contractor came over and did some work, you didn't pay them, they can put a lien on your house, which basically says that when you are, for a lien for a contractor, if you're selling the home, you need to pay it or else you can't sell the home. It becomes a big kind of shadow over your property, and that can linger for the entire time that you have it. But it can also become a factor when you're trying to, like, it can grow in a way, and therefore you can then foreclose on the property, and then actually your house is no longer yours, even if you had plenty of equity in it, an entire amount of money and time and effort into it. They can foreclose on your house based on the way that it was put together.
You did great. That's exactly what it is.
Cool.
Yeah. So a lien's just a judgment on your property.
There we go. That was the word. I was like, there's other words in here for that. Judgment. There
You're good. Yeah. They're basically like, now it's like we're all in this together, because when you sell, we want to get paid, and we're going to get paid first. And the other thing is to be really careful. And we should have I always think title work is so boring. Sorry to anyone who's in title work, but actually it's really important.
It super is. Yeah.
And when you talk about like different expenses you have when you buy and sell a property, what you want to pay for, and your realtor will advocate for this if they're good, is a title search.
Oh, 100. Oh my God, 1,000,000%. Definitely.
You might think you're buying a house for 200 grand, but also there's a contractor that needs to get paid. There's the HOA that you got to deal with. And if all of a sudden all these people have judgments on your property, you, number one, want to make sure those don't transfer to you. And number two, you want to maybe reconsider buying until that all gets sorted out. Definitely.
Especially if you're buying something that maybe was foreclosed on. You might see that it has, like, if it's at an auction or something, you'll see that, oh, cool, I paid whatever price. But if you haven't done a title search or don't know any of that, then it might look like a good deal, and then you have so many of these other people that want a piece of the pie.
I mean, there's a lot of finance get rich quick stuff, which we could, spend forever talking about.
That'll be 12 other episodes.
Yes, and we will, we will spend forever talking about it. But I feel like there's a lot of that with real estate.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, buy this tax lien, and then you can have a house and do this, and you can buy a house for $500, and here's how. And you want to be super careful, because there are ways to go about different strategies. And maybe we'll try to find some of those people and get them on that are intelligent. But most of them are, you think you're buying one thing and really you're buying 15 headaches. That are going to cost you way more money than you were ever going to make.
Well, immediately what you were saying earlier about like, well, buy a fixer-upper for way cheaper, and then you can do this or that. And then you can, I've seen so many of those in these get rich quick, or like people with ulterior motive style short videos, where one in particular, somebody had a bridging loan company. They're like, well, just buy a smaller house, then you can get a bridging loan so that you can upgrade it and get all of the amenities that you want and build that. And then when you're done, you just pay me back with my bridging loan company, and you can get a loan from me. And I'm like, wow, that is, oof, that feels bad. It feels a little scummy.
I will say we need to have them on the show. I have clients that are realtors. It's a couple. They're adorable.
Oh.
And they have a program where they actually come in as part of their contract. They have a contractor who comes in and they renovate the house. And then when they sell, they're already committed as the realtors, so their commission's higher, and they get paid back when they sell. But that's legit. And that's, again, something where it's like a real contract, where you still, any contract, I tell people to consult an attorney.
Oh, 100%.
It's never money that you wasted, in my opinion, for any kind of contract like that where it's a lot of money. But that's a really good example of like, every once in a while it works. But if you saw it on YouTube, TikTok, or Reddit, no.
Yeah, good luck.
But probably not, right?
But especially whenever you do any of those searches and speak with any of these professionals, which we have on like for the foreseeable future, it's amazing how much they tell you stuff that you just wouldn't know. Googling isn't really going to help you. And if you did, you'd basically be getting a law degree anyway. So it's having that amount of checking all the boxes, knowing the unknowns is so helpful. Even if, yeah, for you, it might not be the exact thing that you needed to know, or it wasn't much of an issue, but now you know.
This kind of segues into the tale of two buyers on my condo so far.
Oh, okay.
Both of which obviously have not worked out. So I'm going to talk about them, but I'm not going to use their names, but you know who you are.
You had that first condo that sold perfectly. It was all great. And now this is the second condo you had after that. And then now you have a home.
Well, now I have a condo that I can't sell and a home, but I will sell it by the time this episode comes out. Yes. Right now I'm just a stressed out person with 2 mortgages.
Yeah. And if she doesn't, we'll never bring it up.
Exactly. And then we'll edit this all out.
Exactly.
Yes. So this is condo number 2.
Okay.
Right now, the market in Florida, condo market is bad.
Oof.
Yeah. It's not even soft. It's bad.
Oh, no.
Yep. So I fell in love with this house. I bought this house. I'm like, how hard could it be to sell my condo? I listed on Facebook Marketplace. Lady reaches out to Tony, gets all of her ducks in a row, allegedly. But you always want to be mindful when you are doing any kind of credit work. Try to get, and Tony talked about this, be mindful of if someone's doing a soft pull or a hard pull on your credit.
100%, yeah.
Because a soft pull isn't going to ding you. But if you keep having hard pulls over and over and over again, it can ding your credit. Moral of the story with her, without getting into too many details, is that she is what I would call a girl boss.
Interesting.
Do you know what a girl boss is?
I know the hashtag GirlBoss kind of thing of someone that kind of does a lot of stuff themselves. They're very self-reliant and independent and can make a lot of cool moves themselves and be very confident.
Girl boss, in my experience, is like, I'm going to build a portfolio. They're always like making their own side hustle. They're building a portfolio.
Okay.
And they're kind of like in your face about it. They're like, hashtag girl. You said you know the hashtag girl boss.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody right now, this is a hot take. I hate the term girl boss.
Really?
I think it is ridiculous. It sounds like it takes women and it trivializes them. I am not selling lemonade. I'm buying houses. I'm building businesses. Can you imagine going up to a guy and going, hey, good job, boy boss?
No, ew. Yeah, no, good point.
I think we've normalized it, and I think that it's a terrible term. I vote we get rid of it.
The words alone sound really infantilizing. Of just
That's the word, infantilizing. You want to call me a woman boss? Sure.
Or a boss. How about that? Wow.
See, Keon, this is why you were the first guest on a female podcast, because you get it. Just a boss. Sure. But girl boss, again, it's Girl Scout cookies, lemonade. If you're 5, you're a girl boss. If you're an adult, you're a boss. Sure. That's it. The term in this case was just like, I'm going to build a portfolio. I'm going to do all this stuff, but I have none of my ducks in a row. And I feel like a lot of people, not just women, but people, love HGTV. And they're like, I'm going to be a house flipper and I'm going to do all this stuff. And they don't realize that when you're actually a real estate investor and you're building a real estate portfolio, it's pretty much none of the fun stuff.
Yeah. They make it look so fun, but especially it was so funny because I was rewatching the Michaela episode recently. And there was a moment where she said, it could be like closing on a house could be 30 days to 60 days. I'm just like, it could be if you have everything ready and then you can go from the 30 to 60 days. But getting there is tough. I have a couple other friends that are also in the closing stages. And yeah, it's been a constant conversation for 6 months. They're just like, okay, well, I was looking for this house. Well, now I'm looking for that house. Now I'm looking through this. I'm just like, yeah, it's another job, really. Just that part alone. And then getting all of your ducks in a row for the actual closing is so much more. So I get it. I get the amount of frustration. So coming into it with like, oh, here's something I saw on Facebook Marketplace. I could buy it like I bought a motorcycle or whatever.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, I was snapping when he was talking because the golf clap did not feel like enough. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. So when you talk about building out a real estate portfolio, number one, the biggest thing is what Tony was talking about with financing. You need a Tony, period. You need a Tony. And to your point, before you get a mortgage expert, you need to have all your ducks in a row. If you're behind on your taxes, get on it because they're going to ask you for all of that. Yeah. If you have any kind of outstanding credit, if you don't know your assets and your liabilities, you have to know all of that. Because here's the other thing. There's one set of hoops for your first house. As soon as you start saying you're going to be a real estate investor, there are way more hoops to jump through. And you have to put down way more money.
Oh, yeah.
And your interest rate's higher. People don't understand that, which is why in Michaela's episode, we were talking about All they care about is the state that it's in when you get the mortgage.
Yep.
So if you're a home buyer and it's your primary residence when you buy it, super. And then in a couple of years, if you buy something else and it's your primary, super. Can't do it too close together. I did learn that. I did ask Tony that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. They won't. They're like, nice try. It's been 3 months. Like,
Well, fair enough. Yeah, fair.
But when you're taking a look at being a real estate investor, it takes a lot of cash. And the other thing that I tell my friends that are looking to do it is you want to be careful when you are talking about equity.
Okay.
So let's talk. Some people don't know what that means because I had a conversation with a client and what they did is they're like, well, I put 50 grand into my house, but they did it by customizing their basement for the kids.
No.
Right. They're like, so that is equity. And I'm like, okay, so you bought the house for 400. It might be worth 405 now.
Yeah.
But you've got a really nice basement.
Okay, when I said, oh no, I don't mean that it was a bad thing that they renovated the basement for the children. That's lovely. But yeah, the fact that like there is, and it's funny when you said that, I'm just like, do I not understand equity? And then you said, I'm like, oh no, I get it. And that was bad. Because primarily what you want to do is make sure that the actual improvements you're making on the house increase the home value. When people say that they're renovating their bathroom and it's going to cost like $20,000, it's like, I hope you like that bathroom. That is probably not going to increase the home value very much.
And that's the question, right? Like, going back to the basement example, it's not a bad investment if you're going to live there for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're trying to live there for 2 years, that was a bad investment.
Yeah.
So just making peace with, is this your forever home? Like you said about measuring the dog. Are you going to like measure your kids and your dogs all the way? I guess you measure both now. Can you measure them, up the same, piece of wood in your house for all the years? If that's the case, like customize the house to what you love. If you're trying to like be a boss, boy or girl, and you want to go ahead and start flipping properties, every dollar you spend, you need to be asking yourself, can I get that dollar back and maybe even $1.50, $2 when I go to sell the house?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's what equity is. Equity is my house is worth X, and when I sell it, I can get Y. And being really mindful of any fees you have to pay, because that makes Y move down a little bit, and the space in between, that's the equity that you have in your house.
And when we were talking about having a fixer-upper with good bones and such, that's kind of where that comes in. That if a house in the same area that's very similar would have cost $200,000, but you get a deal on one that's $175,000 and it needs some repair, if you can do that repair for $10,000, there you go. You have like $15,000, a bit of wiggle room there, but you've done the work to get it up, presumably, to $200,000, even though you bought it and put enough work into it for $185,000.
So I literally used Michaela's advice, and the house that I bought has a third room that's a sunroom, but it steps down to a separate room.
Oh, cool.
And it's got a window, and it just needs a closet to be a bedroom. So the good memory. So that's what I asked her when we went and looked at it, which is why you also want a realtor if you're thinking about it as an investment at all, which even if it's your primary, you should be thinking about it that way. Because people move, people change their minds. The people that sold my house unexpectedly had another baby. They got pregnant and they didn't realize. So they're like, we need another bedroom. So that's why they left. Little did they know they could have just put in a closet, but it's all good now. But anyway, so when you're taking a look at your house, just even if it's secondary, thinking of it like an investment, have a realtor that knows things like that. Because I didn't know. I took the real estate exam. I didn't know that. Or maybe I did like 5 years ago, but I don't remember now.
Right. That is the thing about like taking a certification. And then if you don't like re-look at the notes every year, you're just like, okay, well, I have the certification. I'm pretty good at it. I don't remember all the minutia of like what makes a bedroom and stuff like that.
100%. This is worth mentioning. If you want to take, like if you say, why would you take a real estate exam? Little tip, if you go to buy a place and you're your own realtor, if they're paying a real estate commission, sometimes you can actually have them apply that commission to your down payment on your house.
Oh, cool. Nice. I mean, you're doing the work, right? So, yeah, makes sense.
And not only that, but then it's all toward the down payment, which is really important. So it's not just knocking it off the purchase price. It's way less cash that can come out of your pocket.
Oh, nice. Okay, great.
You don't get what you don't ask for. And especially here in Florida, real estate fees are different now than they were a couple of years ago. So really it depends, but just kind of a question to ask if you get your license. That's something to look at. And for me, I love the MLS, which is how you do a deep dive search on properties. So I have my real estate license so I can kind of snoop on that and learn stuff. But
oh,
anyway.
so that gives you access to that tool.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you have to pay like other fees and stuff, but yeah. Anyway, when we were talking about equity, so let's circle back to that.
Sure.
The other thing I've had friends say is like, this house is done and I love it. And the kitchen's just like cherry colored and I really want it to be white. But if I redo the finished kitchen, I'll build more equity. No, you won't. Because the kitchen's already redone. So if you hate a house that on paper is good, don't buy it. Because anything else that you have to do to fix it up, you're never going to get that money back. No. It's updated kitchen, not updated kitchen. Updated bathrooms, not updated bathrooms. It's not, well, I really don't like black granite, so I'm going to change the granite and I'm going to get more money because I changed it out.
On that same note, it's similar to if you were renting and you get like a renovated house, you're just like, oh, this is very nice. But if it's something that's older, you're going to pay the same amount. Like those individual improvements aren't going to change how much you pay in rent a lot of the time. And similarly with a house, the way that I think about it, if you were to buy a house and there's something you want to change and you're thinking that you making the renovation is going to improve the house, primarily if it's something that you could save up that amount of money and you can live with that for a while and then make the renovation, and it's something that you want, and primarily comes down to if you're going to live in the house for 15 years, 5 years living with that, and then after 5 years you renovate it and you're still going to enjoy it for those next 10 years or later, could be your forever home, that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to renovate it very soon and then potentially sell the house within 5 years, probably not the best investment you're going to make.
That was a big thing with my condo, to circle back, is that I really wanted just a place I needed to close fast. I had a specific reason why I bought, and I didn't want to do work to it. I was like, it's a condo. Usually your margins aren't as big. What margin means is that equity example I gave with condos, usually it's like this much. It's not a lot. So mine was going to be when I sold, just depending on like, did the market go up over the last couple of years? When I say that it's not the fun stuff on HGTV, it's exactly what we're talking about. Like, you don't get credit because you wanted a certain amount of like extra details if you're a property investor. Like, being really mindful, like a reading nook is great, but like there's not a value on it.
The only thing close to HGTV we've talked about is turning like a living room into a bedroom by adding a closet or something.
Right.
Like, we have not brought up is like, oh, I took a sledgehammer and I tore down a wall and now it's such a big open concept. It's like, no, this isn't the Property Brothers. Like, to have an investment, it's really not going to make that much of a difference how much you do to the interior unless you're actually changing the factors of what you would list the house at.
And in fact, like, themes are bad. So like, you like French country, you like modern, you like whatever, that's awesome. But then you're really limiting your pool of buyers, which as an investor is not what you want to do. So you want that house to kind of look as bland and done. Is that how you would say it?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because it's similarly with like reselling a car. You're on the market, your car will go for more if it is white, black, blue, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But if it is hot pink, or if it's like has a crazy kind of wrap, or if it has a design on it, you might think, oh my God, this is such a cool design. And I don't disagree, but 9 times out of 10, people won't think the same, and they'll be less likely to get that car because you'll either get someone that really loves that and then everyone else that is completely ambivalent about it. So that's the main thing also with homes, is that unless you find somebody that like, they're like, oh, this is exactly what I want, I don't need to do any work to it, it's exactly what I'm looking for, those people can be pretty few and far between. But everybody that's like, oh, this is a bland canvas by which I can paint on, that's pretty open. And a lot of people be like, oh, I love the house, maybe not the interior decorating, the interior design, because that's up to them, whoever's going to buy it.
There are 2 houses in Safety Harbor that I think are so cool that have sat on the market forever.
I can picture one of them in my head.
Ooh, okay, wait. Let me see if you know what I'm thinking about. They're circular. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah, 100%. Are you kidding me?
How are you supposed to hang anything?
I've been on Zillow and Safety Harbor before.
One is like on the turn to my office. I'm like, guys, why? They built it.
But it is, and that's the thing. It's so cool. But
it's
like,
so cool.
It's cool to go by. Like the Dali Museum is so cool. I don't want to live there.
Right.
Like it's such a cool thing to look at. But similarly, it's just like every product is built to sit in a box.
Right.
So if you're in a circular home, like how are you gonna do it?
I feel like
cool, but I don't want to rag on it.
You have to marry a circular house. Like
Yes,
you have to get a circular bed, which they have, which would be cool.
Did they really?
Yeah, they have circular
I haven't
beds.
checked the
I thought
interior
about
in a
buying
while.
one time, and I was
That's
like, Taylor,
awesome.
you're insane. You're not a circle. You can't do this. So, but anyway, so yeah, it's the circular houses.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but your property on the land is usually worth far less than the land. The land is probably going to be 4/5 of the value. And the actual house, so let's say that you buy a property for $500,000. The house might be $100,000. The land, $400,000 of the value. And so if you were to buy the circular home, a lot of the time, people are like, great, this is great land. I'm going to demolish the circular home. So, or what some people could do is they could actually move the house. So that might be interesting if it's a big plot of land. You're like, that's cool. this is a whole acre. I have one lot somewhere else. We can move it down the street or something and be able to do that. I've seen people that have done that, but that's if you really care about
And
the
the reason why he's
home.
saying that is one we're talking about has a great water view.
Yes,
so you would want to
exactly,
move the house.
Yeah. But when it comes to
They're gonna message us. We're gonna have to buy their house because I feel bad.
I love the house. That's the worst part. Is it's the kind of thing that's you look at it and you're like, this is so awesome. Like I think it could make a really cool Airbnb kind of thing. Maybe
it could.
But I
That's
don't know.
true.
Yeah. Also, not investment advice. You do whatever you want with your circular house. But you were saying
We're rooting for you, circular house. So Airbnbs are a big thing in here in Florida. They're a big thing in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Before you go buy a house and you're like, I'm gonna Airbnb it, make sure. Airbnb was like a sweet deal when it first came out, and then all the regulations took over. Two things. Number one, you need to make sure you can where you're zoned, because your neighbors will rat on you and they will shut down your Airbnb. And number two is that you need to be careful with Airbnb because you can lose that magical homestead.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And people think that's not real, but I'm like, no, that's real.
Something funny about homestead is that there are, depending on the situation, there are they'll just check on some homes, like the people that are part of that organization, and they'll see it's just like, hey, we saw that like you weren't there or something like that, or we saw that it was basically set up as like a venue or something.
Or they just put your property address in on Airbnb and it pops right up and you're busted.
Also, especially that, definitely. But primarily, that if you are doing something as an Airbnb, I've heard in some places that needs to be zoned as commercial. And so if you are in a house that is residential and you want to zone it, there are mixed zoning sometimes where it's both commercial and residential. But that could be an entire problem. And I've heard that some of it from people, I'm not going to say what situations they're in, but they're like, oh, well, it hasn't been a problem for me. And it's like, do you want to roll that dice,
Yep.
The answer is no, I don't want to roll that dice.
And also, that's a very good question to ask your realtor.
Yep.
Be honest with your realtor. It's kind of like your attorney. It's like attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
Just tell your realtor, this is what I want to use it for. Make sure before you buy it. I mean, I asked like 15 times if I can make a third bedroom. I asked an obnoxious amount of times because it mattered to me. Because I was like, that was a big decision. And I want to stay in my house. I love my house. But I always, it's just how my brain is making sure that it's an investment that makes sense. So then I had a second person that wanted to buy it. They had all their paperwork.
Okay.
And they just keep putting in offers and backing out within the inspection period.
Oof.
And what I will tell you is every house has problems. Every home inspector is going to find something wrong with your house. If they don't, they're going to get accused of not actually doing their job. So they're always going to find something. In any house, including new builds, there's going to be something that's wrong with your house. In my case, what happened was we had the night before the home inspection, the water leaked from upstairs. The AC unit upstairs leaked. And I've never had a problem in 2 years. Not bad at all. Tiny.
Okay, that's
Tiny.
good. Because when I think of a roof leak, because we had roof repair on this building actually. And that was during not even hurricane season, but like spring shower season. Yeah. And so they had put some tarp up. The tarp flew away and we had a crazy leak. And it ruined so much of my equipment. But luckily, I mean, like everything was okay. It was salvageable.
Was that here?
When I think, here. So when I think of like roof leaks, I think of like, okay, that's catastrophic and everything's ruined.
Keon has PTSD. You have roof PTSD.
Yeah, so I'm glad.
Was that here? Was that in the studio?
It was in a different unit in this building.
Yeah, so it was a tiny leak. We got it fixed. I got home from a trip Monday night. My friend had gone to check on the house. I literally land on my Allegiant flight. I pull up in my phone And I'm like, all the people on Allegiant flights, they're always clapping. They're so proud that we landed. Which honestly, planes are falling out of the sky right now. I'm proud of them too.
Yeah,
it was
seriously.
fine. So everyone claps, and as the applause is going on, I see that my house has water damage. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Gosh.
So I stay up all night patching it. And then the next day we have the inspection. They do something called a moisture meter. So they see on the ceiling that there's a moisture issue.
Okay.
Not a big deal. There was nothing else wrong with the house. That's part of why she said she pulled out, but she also just pulled out because she gets cold feet all the time. Now I get to deal with whose fault is it? Because the guy upstairs doesn't want to. He's like, well, what's done is done. I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God.
So now it's a question of, is it the HOA? Is it the guy upstairs? How do we get everything fixed?
And that's the annoyance in my mind with an HOA.
And that's where it all comes full circle to, you are right, and that I am never buying a condo again. But if somebody wants to, they can.
Well, that's the thing, is it has to be the kind of situation that works best for you. And especially from my mind, it really is how well your HOA is. Something that happens so many times when people are either buying a property or whatever is that they get this like fantasy in their head of like, everything's going to be great. It's going to work out great. I'm just excited about this. Maybe you really love the area it's in. You really love the circular house you're buying or whatever. And then all of that rose-colored glasses start to get sucked away. And especially with HOAs, unless, you're having a very good experience with your HOA for years and years and years, and then something comes up, it's like, okay, well, I mean, rubber hits the road, it's understandable. But when it becomes those elements of like, okay, well, it's been fine, but now there's a problem. And this problem that could have been resolved very easily if I literally had a neighbor that like, you did this thing.
Right.
It's open and shut. And then the building's just like, okay, well, it could be us, it could be them. And now there's ability for both of them to push the blame on the other person. And it becomes, I mean, this is a super weird reference, but if you ever know about the n-body problem, the more elements you add to a problem, the more infinitely complex it becomes. And so if you have like a planet and a moon, very simple. Once you add one more thing and they all have equal gravitation, it becomes crazy. You don't know where it's going. You don't know how crazy it gets. So in my mind, the more of these little planets you keep adding, the HOA, the person that's at fault, you, a contractor, the inspector, now you have all of these things orbiting. Yes, you have a universe orbiting a problem, and you're like, I don't know how this is going to get fixed. I just need to make sure that it happens eventually. So I'm so sorry you're going through that.
No, it's okay. What's it called? N-body?
There was a show and a book called The 3-Body Problem. And that's at the core of it, is the idea that N being like a random variable, the more that you add to it in a numerical sense, the more infinitely complicated it becomes. And you just can't track how something's going to happen. So for all you 3-body problem nerds out there, that was
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I love that you know stuff like that.
Thank you.
I was thinking it was end, E-N-D, but it's N-body.
Yes. Yeah. N and then a dash.
So this is the thing. Keon gives like very cool scientific, philosophical things. Do you want me to tell you what my take on that is?
Sure.
Do the right thing. Like if your unit leaks, fix it. But so the thing I wanted to say is that it's really a question of how much do you want it, right?
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, and I won't go into the other pretend reason, but there was that reason and then another reason. And neither of them would deter somebody who wants to buy a house from buying a house. It's a boss move to buy a house because there's always risk. You're always going to have you could walk in and it's perfect. If I would have sold a month ago to somebody, they would have walked in, it would have been perfect. And a month later, they would be in my shoes. You know what I mean? So hopefully I'm getting some kind of good karma out of this. I don't know. But it's one of those things where you want to make sure that if you really want a house, it's a magnified version of what I'm going to call the blouse decision.
Oh,
when you go and you buy a blouse, if you don't love it in the store, you're not going to love it when you go home and you're never going to wear it. If you don't love a piece of property when you go to buy it, which hopefully for the circular house people, they're going to love it.
They're going to love it, or they're going to hate it. And the people that hate it shouldn't buy it.
Buy it. But if you don't love a house, you're not going to want to put up with all the stuff that comes. It's like when you love somebody. Imagine if we did if we did like a person inspection.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine?
Oh, God. See, well, that's what I find so interesting, and we'll have other episodes about this kind of thing, is that the more that we talk about like doing a prenup, doing all of these kind of things, if you are buying a house together and you're not married, well, one person should buy the house. Like we've seen this before in the podcast, that it's sometimes better for one person to purchase the house, the other person to kind of have a lease in the event of an issue. And that these aren't ways to be like, okay, well, you don't trust me and you hate me. It's like, no, we're all trying to make sure that we understand the agreement, and we are seeing how each of us would react to that kind of thing. And it's similar where, like, with a house, like, if you are in love with it and you love looking at it, and it's funny because so many of these, like, I don't know if you've ever seen these uber rich people be like, I wear a Rolex because it makes me happy when I look at it. Never thought about it, never even cared. I was like, I don't care about Rolexes. And then I saw this car once and I was like, okay, if I had that car, I'd be like, every time I look at it, it would just give me so much joy. And similarly with your house, if it's something like that, every time you look at it, every time you think about being there, it just fills you with joy and relaxation. That's incredible. If it doesn't, it won't. So it's not going to change unless you, I don't know, something about the bones. I don't know how to do that.
You are so brilliant. A person inspection is a prenup. That's what it is.
Hey, yeah, there we go.
You're so smart. Well, we all knew that, but you're like the smartest person alive because, and also, I just want to say, because you've edited these episodes and watched them so much, I now feel confident that you are a lawyer, a realtor, a mortgage broker.
I'll take it.
For a health insurance agent. You're all of it. You can do all of it because you've heard them all multiple times.
If you can tell it to the Florida bar and like get me in there, that'd be great.
I'm here saying it right now.
I would like the Esquire at the end of my name.
I'll get it for you. You know I will. I'll figure it out.
You would. If anybody would, it would be you. Yeah.
I'm on it. It's an honorary. What the heck? Like all the celebrities have honorary PhDs.
Yeah, good point.
Do you know what I told my handyman the other day? God bless him, Brian Kurtner. We need to have him on.
Yeah.
I literally go, the man's incredible. I said, Brian, you know every single thing about a house. He goes, I do. I said, it's like you have a degree in house. I said, you know what? You have a PhD in house.
100%, yeah.
He's a PhD in house.
He's Dr. House. Yeah.
I call him Dr. House or Dr. Brian. That's what I call him.
Awesome.
And I mean it. I'm like, you are brilliant. And he knows everything about a house. I wish I had that brain.
Yeah, right.
And I wish I had your brain because you're right. A person inspection is a prenup. Because at the end of the day, and we'll talk about this in other episodes, you can look at, there are problems with everybody. Problem with me, problems with you, problems with everybody. Do you really want that person or not? And you can do as much as you can to protect yourself. And it's the same with a house. You can get the home inspector, you can do the title search, you can have the smartest realtor, you can have all these other things. And like case in point in Florida, there could be a hurricane a month later.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Oh,
There's another one out there already. Can you believe it?
I can believe it, but I don't want to.
You know, when you're talking about risk, that's all we do all day long, right? Is manage risk, especially with the jobs that we have. And buying a house is like anything else. Selling a house is like anything else. There's risks involved, and what do you really want? And before we go, how do you feel about if you're selling and it's not going well, hypothetically speaking, saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go ahead and rent it out?
This opens an entire, like this will be the sequel to this episode eventually, is the idea between where you want to put your money. If you want to put it in real estate, if you want to put it in a stock, those kind of things. Because when it comes to renting, it is such a, you know, people call it passive income. I don't disagree that it's way easier to make money in renting than it is to do a bunch of other things. But primarily, you need to make sure you have a good tenant that you're going to be able to communicate well with. They're happy with the house and that all the things that you provided for them are going well and that a bunch of craziness doesn't happen. But not only making sure that you are doing your duty as a landlord is its own complete can of worms. You need to take kind of your own training and your own course on that kind of stuff to make sure that you're doing what you need to do right. So for me, if you had a property and you're trying to sell it and whatever, the two things that really do make property ownership and investment so much different than owning something else is because in America, it's different in a lot of other countries, it is an appreciating asset as we know it now. When you purchase a home within a couple of years, presumably it's going to go up in value. And so that alone for some people can be the kind of arbitrage that's fine. You're going to make some money on a property after you buy it, presumably in a couple of years, maybe a decade.
And that, just as a side note, is why the sentence, you're throwing money away on rent, that's where that's coming from, is you're assuming the house is going to go up in value.
Yeah. And so if you are also renting it, of course, that's money on money, right? Not only is the property going up in value, but you're also renting it. And so if you have that ability, if you're going to be a good landlord, if you're going to make sure that everybody is comfortable, then I think that that's something that's worth pursuing. But at the same time, it's how much you want to get out of it in that way. But if you're thinking of it as an investment in what's called land banking, which is where you take your money and you put it into land, and presumably that'll go up with the market, then that's another way you can do it in which you don't have the rental aspect to think about. When it comes to real estate, it's such a completely different beast than you put money into a stock, hopefully the stock goes up. however much percentage a year.
It doesn't call you and tell you the toilet broke.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't sneak in 3 pit bulls.
You don't have your a leak in the roof in the middle of when you're on an Allegiant airline or whatever.
100%, 100%. Nothing against pit bulls. They could be cats. We love all
Sure.
breeds. We love all
Definitely.
animals, but not if you said that you weren't going to have any.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
the
So
difference.
don't have carpet in your house.
Yes, 100%. And I wanted to caveat that.
Yeah.
If you are turning your primary residence into a rental, your property taxes will go up a lot. So being mindful of, don't just budget for what your property taxes are now, budget for what your property, same with, you need to make sure to call your insurance agent. What's your insurance going to be when there are renters there?
Yeah.
So get your numbers, but get them not as they are now, get them as they will be when it's a rental property, because they're different. Can I tell you the smartest thing Michaela told me?
I would
And we
love
can
to
end
hear
on
it.
this because I know we got to wrap
Let's do
up. I was talking to her and I was saying that land here is so expensive, which goes along with the Circle House story that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I said to her, when you're trying to build equity in something, a lot of times if you can build, like if you have the grit required to get permits in this county or anywhere, if you have the network of contractors and such to get it built, really, if you can build something, you can typically have a lot of equity once you finish building it. So a lot of times when you buy land, you have to pay cash. Or if you get a mortgage, they're really specific and the interest rates are usually most of the time you have to buy it with cash.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're trying to be an investor, that's a ton of money that you have to sink into a property. She goes, find a house where you know you're going to demo it, because then you basically get it for the land value and you can finance it because it had a house on it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And that's why you hire experts, because it never occurred to me. And I was like, that's brilliant.
I definitely want to end on this kind of sentiment, because every single episode that we've done on this channel comes down to know your team, know the people that know more than you, because they're able to give you that kind of advice and be able to tell you, if you want a lot of land, and a lot, literally in one lot, sorry. But if you want one lot of land, then you might as well, do those kind of things. And that'll be easier for you to get a loan and stuff like that. These are the kind of things that would never cross your mind if you are dipping your toes into real estate. But when you have a real estate agent, or you have a mortgage originator, or any of the other people that we talk about, they know what they're talking about. It's they immediately know the ways that these things come around and can be really useful.
And you know what I always say? You can't pay people to care.
Ooh, yeah.
People either care or they don't care. People are either passionate about what they do or they're not. Yeah. People either give you that extra nugget to help you or they don't. Because what you pay people to do is their job description. And it's everything in between that's what really adds value and matters.
I agree. And especially when it comes to things that really matter to you. Do you want to, when it's something that's occupying so much of your brain, do you want to think that, oh, cool, I have somebody that I can talk to about this, or like, oh, I need to pick my words carefully if I'm going to talk to this person, when it's something you really care about.
Yeah. And employees, God knows we both had our share of that. When you're hiring people, you can pay 2 people the exact same amount of money and they can both do the job description, and one makes your day and one ruins your day. I love that you care.
Of course I do. I think that this is an incredible project that we're doing together, and I hope you guys like it too.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for joining me today, Keon.
My absolute pleasure.
Remind everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on this channel at Taylor Well.
You can find me either here or right over there editing stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. You can also find me at FrameForge, so the @ FrameForge on YouTube.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you all for listening. And until next time, remember that your wealth suits you better when it's tailored.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through MFP Financial Services, LLC, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Keon Buzar-Jamiri and his company are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or MFP Financial Services, LLC.